And people should buy less Costa coffees and go on less holidays and not go out for dinner so often, and then they'll be able to pay the electricity bill, which, I said it tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but to be fair, that is probably partly true. I mean, the ones who are really struggling aren't doing any of those things, and I do accept that. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there who, in the old days, people would save money. Now it's very hard to save money. It's not fashionable to save money.
The reality in Canada is just devastating. This is just electricity bill. What about food, rent, and all those other bills? How do they manage to pay them?
Sugar, flour, bread. Those are basic food. Eggs. You can't buy eggs. Even lime. You could have got a 50p lime. Now it's £1.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you're watching. Right now, I'm so glad that I'm sharing this video with you who will help Canada. The inflation is on another level. So what the hell is happening in Canada? And right now, I'll let you leave your thoughts in the comment section, but mostly we'll be looking at how did Canada got here? What happened for them to find themselves in this situation right now?
This is not okay. I just spent $74 and what I got is ridiculous. This is what's going on in Canada. I'm pretty sure it's happening everywhere else. How the hell are people living? 2 packs of ground beef, 2 packs of noodles, naan bread, brick of cheese, small, look at the size of this thing. My hand.
I'll be just letting you watch different ways of how people are trying to cope with the situation, and some of them have accepted the situation and they're trying to navigate through it, and some really can't make it. Even with 4-3 jobs, they can't make it in Canada. Why this is happening? Inflation on another level.
Point number 1. How do people afford today's cost of living? Apparently, in places like Toronto, Montreal, and the likes, your average monthly rent is over $3,000 per month. A lot of people find this unaffordable. And because of that, people now resort to living in the suburbs and working remotely. And for those who want to live in the big cities and you don't mind sharing, well, be prepared to have a roommate. Apparently, I read a post on Reddit where people now engage in marriage of convenience just to afford the rent in Toronto. Another method people now use is to not apply to jobs that are beyond 40 minutes driving distance from their residence. Point number 4, live below your means by cutting off anything that you do not use. For example, subscriptions such as YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and the likes. It could save you up to $70 monthly. Point number 5, you want to get your credit score up to speed. Your credit score is literally your life, because without it, you will not be given access to certain funds to do any major thing, such as buying a car, buying a house, or anything that you want to do. Unfortunately, most of these Canadian banks, they will charge you exorbitant fees monthly if you're not able to maintain a certain account balance, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if you want to build your credit easily, you could try online fintech companies like Koho, and you could get a credit card and build your line of credit. Point number 6, cook as much as you can and only reward yourself with takeouts during the weekend. Point number 7, you can save on your hydro bills, aka electricity. A lot of Canadian hydro companies operate what we call time of use, which means for each time of the day, you have the peak, the mid-peak, and the off-peak periods. Now, the off-peak periods are the best times to use your electricity because that's where you get the lowest rates. And the off-peak periods are usually from 7 p.m. in the evening to 7 a.m. the next morning, and on Saturdays and Sundays. Point 8, use coupons and reward points for your regular groceries, shopping outlets, fast food joints, gas, and so much more. You can use apps such as the PC Optimum Point, Air Miles, and the regular coupons from your regular stores. Point 9, learn to take care of yourself first before sending urgent 2K home.
Okay, so I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and for those of you who don't know, Canada has a serious fucked up inflation problem right now. I just got back from doing groceries and I have $70 worth of groceries on my table right now, and I genuinely don't even know what I purchased that made it to $70. I had a fucking mini breakdown to my parents the other week and I started crying, tears. They came in because I was doing a budget and they were like, how is it? And I was like, Cheers. I'm working like 3 jobs right now. Like, I got out of university like last year in December, and I have been fucking grinding it out ever since, just because the cost of living, and I'm not even really saving that. I'm not saving anything really, but the cost of living is outrageous in Canada.
If you've watched to this extent, you realize that this is not just homelessness, this is not just immigrants on the streets, but even Canadian are being affected differently. Having gone through the school system and everything, fulfill everything, get a good job and get your income, maybe get 3 or 4 jobs and still can't level up. What is going on in Canada? So how did Canada got here? Seriously.
Rent in Canada is absolutely out of control. The only pro is for the people who have been living in the same place for 10, 15 years, because legally they can't see a dramatic increase to what market rent is. So let me actually change what I said. Market rent in Canada is insane.
What they have in common, they can't afford rent. For a growing number of people, highway rest areas have become much more than a temporary stop.
In so many countries, having a full-time job is a kind of security that you build to yourself. But right now in Canada, even with a full-time job, it's impossible to even afford food, meal, or... Let me let you listen to the clip. Thank you.
And a new report released by Feed Scarborough is digging into why, uncovering troubling stats. Almost a third of their clients are employed.
Think about it. You're working 40 hours a week, but you still cannot afford food, which is a basic human right.
More than half of those employed reported low income as their reason for accessing a food bank. What does that say to you?
That says that we have precarious employment, number one. That says that our housing and other expenses are so high that they are often food is somewhere where they compromise.
But some don't even have the option to work. 72% of Feed Scarborough clients have been in Canada for less than a year, like Brigitte, who arrived to Canada from Uganda 3 months ago and is still waiting for a work permit.
I can't pay the bills, I don't have money, I don't have any income.
She can't even work because she's waiting for a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm still surviving.
She blames stress and a lack of food for a miscarriage she endured when she first arrived. She's now volunteering at the food bank while she waits.
If you're like me, you might be wondering why is that Canadians still accept immigrants, even with the situation that is happening in their country right now. Why can't they solve their issues first and then take immigrants in? So this clip that I'm going to play after this is going to explain more about that.
It says Canada absolutely can't build more houses without more immigrants. Let's actually talk about this. So it says 451,000 new immigrants are going to come by 2024 and 500K, so 500,000 by 2025. And I can guarantee you they're probably all coming to Toronto, somewhere in Ontario, because that's where all the social services are. And that's where most of the people's families are. It says we have a humanitarian duty towards people that are fleeing war and persecution. What about the duty towards the actual citizens, the Canadian citizens that have been born, bred here, that have been paying taxes, that have been living here all their life? What about the duty towards them? It says that labor shortages is one of the key priorities. I understand that people are not working right now. A lot of people have graduated and they're unable to find jobs. So if you're currently living in Canada and you're currently working 3 or 4 jobs, you understand how bad it is that you can't even save up for anything right now. If you want to buy a house, a car, anything, because of interest rates, you can't even lease it. It's exponentially high. So even when you're paying off your debt, you're ending up paying a lot more because of interest. So with all these immigrants coming in, I understand a lot of people are not happy about it, but we're not actually the ones that are like working. Even with us working, it's not enough. But I generally don't think that Canadians bringing more immigrants is actually going to be helping, because those immigrants are going to realize how expensive it is for Canadians to actually come here and live here. When they bring in their capital that they have, they're better off staying there. And I know so many other people are struggling. This is all we're talking about right now. But why are we only talking about this? Why are we not actually doing something about it? It's on the news, it's on TikTok news, you're sharing with your friends, but why is nobody actually doing something about it? I genuinely don't get it. Like, that's it. I'm actually done with Canada.
If you want to really understand what's going on with inflation in Canada, you've come to the right place. In my research, I went back to 1963 to find out what was the average home price in Canada back then. Back then, in 1963, the average home price in Canada was at approximately $15,000. If you look at all the inflation rates annually from then all the way to today, it would have been basically median inflation of 2.7%, average inflation of around 3.9%. If I add those to the home price, the average home price in today's dollars, it would have been approximately $136,000 in Canada. In reality, what we have for our home prices today is at around $665,000, a 44 times increase in the price versus the 9 times it should have been. Why? Because our currency has lost so much value because of all the money printing. So all this nonsense the central banks are doing by fighting inflation, by increasing short-term interest rates, isn't really doing anything, because really they're printing money, increasing the money supply. So in order for us to protect ourselves from this inflation issue is to own assets such as real estate.
Yeah, this clip over here is of a girl who had to move from Canada, a Canadian, I'm saying a Canadian, who couldn't find a job in Canada with a master's degree. So she had applied for so many jobs and 100 applications, and she was overqualified for the internship. She didn't even get an opportunity for an internship, and she had to move to Portugal. And right now she's saying she will never come back to Canada because she feels like she's more safe in Portugal.
Why did I leave Canada? Well, believe it or not, it's because I couldn't find a job. So let's do a story time. This is why when people tell me like, oh, Canada, the United States, like go there, you get a job for like thousands and thousands of dollars per month, I kind of laugh, because the reason I left Canada was because I, as a Canadian with a master's degree, languages, all this kind of stuff, couldn't find a job. Let's rewind to 2013. 2013, I just got back from Chile. I had defended my thesis. I have a master's in international development and globalization with a specialization in women's studies. I'd moved out of Ottawa back to Toronto to live with my parents while I found a job. And I started looking for an entry-level position in NGOs or government kind of institution agencies. At the time, I did have a master's degree. I spoke 3 languages, so Spanish, English, and French. And I also had work experience. So I did work at the Canadian International Development Agency, which is now defunct. And I did have previous work experience with internships, etc., etc. Now, in a course of 1 year, I think I sent out more than 100 applications. And no joke, I couldn't even get like one of those non-paid internships. The issue was that I was too experienced for an internship, but not experienced enough for the position after the internship. So I was in this like really weird middle section where I just literally could not get a job. So I started waitressing in my hometown, applying for jobs, I got, I think, 3 interviews. And at that point I was like, absolutely not. Like, this is not, I don't accept this. I'm leaving. Originally, I wanted to go to Panama because I lived there twice before and I loved Panama. I still love Panama. But my dad was like, why don't you try Europe? And so I had 3 options. It was the UK, Switzerland, or Belgium. And since my mom knew someone in Belgium, in Brussels, and they said that I could stay with them free of charge, I decided to move to Brussels with, I think, 4,000 Canadian dollars, not euros, Canadian dollars in my pocket. And thus begins my immigration to the continent of Europe. I lived in Brussels, moved to Brazil, went back to Brussels, and then ended up in Portugal. Did I plan to come and live in Portugal? Absolutely not. But I'm actually really happy that it turned out the way it did. Now, people ask me, will you ever move back to Canada? And my answer to that is, I don't think so. I don't think I'll ever move back to Canada. I've really put up roots in Portugal and I don't see myself leaving. I see myself becoming Portuguese if I can ever actually become Portuguese. But Canada is a great country. It's just, it wasn't a fit for me and I feel at home in Portugal.
So right now, the place that I'm staying at is more closer to $4,000 a month. 2-bedroom apartments are going for $2,900. 1-bedroom apartments are going for $2,500 a month. This is in Toronto, Mississauga, Hamilton. You're seeing a huge trend and a huge shift in the increase in prices. 4 years ago, when we were homeless, when we were in the shelter for 9.5 months, we were struggling to find a place to live. It was me, my mom, and my younger sisters. I was a nursing student working 3 jobs, and then I became a nurse working 3 jobs as a nurse on top of that, and I still couldn't afford rent. I was making anywhere between $3,200 to $3,300, and taxes and everything aside, it wasn't even enough. Your rent should only be 30% of your income, which means I needed to be making $10,000 a month for my rent, which is $3,000, and the landlords to accept me with that. So good luck finding a place to accept you if you have 1, 2, 3 jobs. Anything less than $60K a year, they won't accept. You need closer to $150K a year to begin.
Us complaining about things getting more expensive and things actually getting cheaper.
Okay, so there's no correlation. Therefore, it is actually pointless to continue complaining about these things because it's not going to solve any of those problems. The only solution to these problems is to make more money at the end of the day. Because when you really think about who's affected by these problems, it's middle to lower class. But the upper class aren't affected by these problems. Why? Simply because they make more money. And it really doesn't start with your salary and how much you make today, but it really starts with the mindset that you carry. You know, I read a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and one thing that they said the difference between poor people and rich people is that poor people look at obstacles for obstacles, but wealthy people look at obstacles as opportunities. So during these times, this is probably going to be one of the biggest challenges and obstacles that we face. So are you going to look at it as a place where you can play victim and complain about these things, or are you going to look at it as an opportunity to grow, maybe an opportunity to have another income stream, maybe to start another business, maybe to develop and learn more skills that can help you make more money? Okay, these are going to be the only solutions to your problem, not complaining or playing victim. And I feel like where it really starts is by surrounding yourself with people that are on that same wavelength, are looking for solutions, looking ways to succeed during these times, right? Looking to better themselves, make more money so that these problems don't affect them. Then by default, you'll inherit certain skill sets that are going to take you there as well.
Glad you watched to the end. Thank you so much for watching. Also subscribe. Goodbye for now.